everybody. Welcome to our webcast, Powerful Storytelling, the why behind your brand. My name is Jennifer Cummins, and I am the CEO of Coral House Productions, a B2B creative content solutions company. So I see we have a lot of friends here. Thanks everybody for joining. Refresh the page if you guys are having any kind of issues with the page loading. I see some friends, some fellow military spouses. Hey, awesome. I'm so glad you guys are here. So today we are going to discuss the concept of storytelling within your brand and why it's important. But before we dig in, please allow me to introduce my lovely guest. Please join me in welcoming Nikki James Selner. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm tuning in from Virginia Beach, Virginia, and it is muggy outside, but I am here for it.
Awesome. So Nikki is a content strategist that helps brands of all shapes and sizes approach their content with intention. And she's also a fellow military spouse based right here in Virginia. Like she said, I'm here in Virginia as well. But like I do with Coral House Productions, we both work remotely with clients from all over. So but before we get started, I just want everyone listening to know we will have a Q&A session at the end that we'd love for you to participate. So as you follow along our journey here, start thinking of those burning questions you might like to ask and be ready to drop them in the chat during that time. But as we chat, feel free to add your comments below. So let's get started. In today's competitive marketplace, brands need to do more than offer products and or services. They need to create a connection with their audience that goes beyond the transaction. Why? How many of you love getting sales emails? How many of you love email marketing or cold calling with scripts? Anyone? I know I don't. I know as soon as I get emails like that sound remotely salesy, they immediately go in the trash. What about you, Nikki? You feel the same way?
I feel the same way. I even go so far as to have a spam email account that anytime people want me to give them my information and I don't actually want to give it to them, I just send it to this email that doesn't actually get checked.
Exactly. So there's so much noise out there with that sales language that everyone just stopped listening or set up spam filters. So creating that human connection is just the way to go. And one way to achieve this is through brand storytelling. And brand storytelling is the art of using a narrative to convey the unique values, personality, and mission of a brand. What does that mean? Storytelling, brand marketing refers to strategic uses of narratives, anecdotes, and compelling narratives to convey a brand's message, values, and identity to target the audience, because that's who it's about. It's about the people that you are trying to reach, not necessarily about you or the company that you've created. It involves crafting a cohesive and engaging story that captivates the audience. What are some of the things that they're concerned or worried about? It just resonates with their emotions and leaves that lasting impression. Brand marketing goes beyond merely promoting products or service. It just aims to create a deeper connection with customers, therefore immediately giving more trust to you and your brand. What do you think about brand storytelling, Nikki?
So I think, it's really one of the first places I think about starting is knowing what kind of brand storytelling you're going to be doing, right? Understanding if you are the kind of business that is going to be selling widgets and therefore don't need to spend a large amount of time on you as the owner, as those kind of behind the scenes stories, or if you are a brand built on you, if you're a brand built on you and your persona and your intellectual property. Those are two very different brand storytelling strategies that you're going to be deploying at that time. So step one for me is always, what kind of brand are we? Are we a person? Are we a professional? Or are we a corporate brand that is in service completely to someone else?
Yeah, exactly. And that's basic overall, like what storytelling is. But let's talk a little bit more about the why. Yeah. So every business has a unique why behind it. to make money versus another reason. I've had people come to me and say, do I really have a why behind my business? I mean, let's say, for instance, I own an insurance company. I'm just selling insurance. What kind of a story do I have? Or like a lawn mowing service. They just don't have a story. You do, actually. So if you dig a little bit deeper and ask some more questions about what makes you get up every morning, why did you start your business? What just makes you tick? And usually when you explore some of these questions, you actually start digging a little bit deeper. Like for instance, for myself, military spouse, I was going from location to location. I know some of you military spouses in the chat here. I know you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Trying to find a job every time we move with the military is very difficult. So I got exhausted with doing that. I just wanted to create something for myself. So with Coral House Productions, I created this own company that I could then take with me wherever I go and build a career versus accepting a job after job after job. And that showing my children, I'm building, I'm working hard, I'm creating my legacy. That's my story. That's my why. And so you start asking yourself these questions, and then you actually start identifying that why behind the brand.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I think about when I think about like the why, right, for anybody is it started because of something.
Yeah.
What does it start because of, right? Wasn't it an event in your life? Did it start because of an experience you had as a child, as an adult, as a caregiver? Why did you start what you started? And so a lot of times that comes back to a personal experience. And sometimes that just comes back to a grouping of experiences that shaped your values. And so if you really value, excellence and loyalty, those are going to be some of the big things that you talk about in every story that you tell. So I think when we think about the why, we're thinking about what happened to us or someone we love, but we're also thinking about what are those values that shape us and how does that help us direct those stories and create the why behind them.
Yeah, and I see Matthew Shanks has a comment here, who sounds fantastic. How do I have a brand storytelling, do all that and not sound like spam or go into the spam bin? So here's an example of ways that you can shape content for in the individuals. And we'll go into more of like the different kinds of mediums and stuff that you can use to formulate that strategy. But I had a gentleman come up to me once. I believe he was a singer, and he did a lot of children's songs. So it was like Christian's music for kids. And his name for his company just was not matching what his company was about at all. I don't even remember what the name of it. It just did not align, did not compute. So, he was telling me, oh, I really want to change the name of this company, but I'm not really sure what to name it. I thought this name sounds really cool, and this name. And again, he was coming up with names that helped with his geographical location because he was moving to like California, but it still didn't actually speak to what he does and who he does it for. So even something as simple as the name of your company, the colors of your brand, the font choices that you use, all of these things kind of come together to form a brand overall that makes someone feel something. But you can't do it for you, so to speak, unless, like you were saying, Nikki, before, if it aligns, if you're like the persona that you're trying to reach out to or the audience that you're trying to reach out to, obviously, then that makes a little bit more sense. But, if you're trying to reach kids who are trying to listen to Christian music, you definitely need to name your company that aligns, that reaches out to them. What speaks to them? What's fun for them? What engages them? And what colors engage them in that and get them excited about your company and brand?
Absolutely.
So another little quick story here is I had a shoot coming up recently that I needed to hire a couple new crew members for. So I'm looking through some of these like demo reels and everything, trying to find the right fit. And, one of them looked really good. It was the first guy I reached out to. Didn't hear back from him. Second video I watched, super nerdy guy, like he made some really corny jokes in his videos, and it was a little corny, but I have to say, I kind of gravitated towards that because I'm kind of a nerd too, hence the Harry Potter books on the shelf behind me. But it resonated with me, and I was like, okay, I see you, I get you. And I emailed him. I'm like, look, your work is good. A little corny, but it was really good, and I really enjoyed it. It was very professionally done. I'm really interested in trying to find someone to work with me. Are you available? Emailed me right away. So aside the fact of that he had like the high professionalism to respond promptly, it's just talking about that kind of brand, that content. It's the way that he spoke to me, Jennifer, just little me, even though he wasn't actually speaking to me. He kind of just put himself out there. Hey, this is me. This is what I'm about. Take it or leave it. And I took it.
Yeah, I think bringing your, your whole self is piece one of that, right? Like, especially when you're working with service providers. When you work heavily with service providers, you're actually working with the personalities. And so understanding their personality in advance, I think, is going to be very important. And so anything that you can do to showcase that, showcase the way that you communicate, I think is going to be a part of your strategy in general.
Absolutely. And now, in the beginning of our show, I was showing a couple of videos of a few different brand videos that do really well in this space, in the storytelling. Some of you guys might have joined a little bit late, but brands such as Nike or Dove or Etsy, some of those people really stand out. I think, Nikki, one of the ones that you had brought up when we had originally talked was Brene Brown. And I feel like that kind of relates to one of the things that you had just mentioned a second ago about kind of bringing that vulnerability to the table and oversharing, but not really oversharing. It's just what people want to see these days. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think, I think a big buzzword right now is authenticity, right? That's a big buzzword. Everybody says, I want the most authentic brand. And marketing in general is all about how do you communicate your stories to the types of people that you want to communicate to in the way that they want to be communicated to, right? That will compel them to action. And so when I think about Brene Brown, I think about the fact that this is a brand built around a person, right? She has lots of different books. They have people that can be trainers on Brene Brown's whole kind of philosophy with Daring to Lead. And then she also has the research aspect of what she does for a living. So when you look up Brene Brown's brand, it's actually, she is a researcher and storyteller. And all of those things go into her products that serve others. But what's really true to Brene is the way that she presents herself on stage, the way that the books are laid out, the way that the website is laid out. And even when there's some social things going on in the world, Brene is kind of brave enough to say, I'm going to take a month off of social media so that I can learn the things I need to learn instead of just pushing more things out when people are looking to me to have kind of perspective. And so I think a lot of the things that we talk about with brand storytelling in general is knowing your values and what you stand for and represent. And if Brene Brown stands for vulnerability and she stands for learning and being her most authentic self, it is absolutely in line with Brene Brown's brand to say, I'm going to press pause. Right? Absolutely in line. Now, stuff is still being sold, but her coming into the frame and doing her live videos and posting on social and trying to act like the world is just moving on as normal, that's not in line with her brand. So what I love about these brands in particular is not only do the messages say what the messages need to say, but the behaviors are aligned with the brands. And I think that really emphasizes that why behind a brand, right? And so the Nikes, the Etsys, the Apples, they all have intention, not just by who they're trying to reach, but how they move through the world. And I think that is one of the highlights of a great brand, is when they know this is out of alignment with how this brand would move through the world, no matter who it's trying to reach.
Right. And I think you had said it right the first time, like kind of visualizing it in like a Venn diagram where like back in the day, you have your sales team and then you have your marketing team. Your sales team is all about the numbers, all about the metrics, all about sell. And the marketing team, sometimes we have ideas that we just need to be brought back down. I get it. Sometimes we might not look at the numbers right away, that we see all these bright, exciting opportunities that we can market with, but meeting somewhere in the middle where sales meets marketing. But let's throw those terminologies out the window, because that's not that's not the best representation of authenticity at this time. I would say more or less it is, showing a little bit of that vulnerability by also being smart with the brand and also utilizing, what you need to do or say to get the point across of what it is you're trying to do as minimalistically as possible.
Yeah, the Venn diagram that I often talk about is called my sweet spot diagram, which is draw a circle and put you in the middle. Just write the word you. And then draw a circle that a little bit overlaps with your circle and just put the word them in it. And them is your target audience, those people you're trying to serve. And the you is how you naturally move through the world. And when you're in full alignment with yourself, this is the most fully expressed version of yourself or your brand. And where those two circles overlap is what I call the sweet spot. And if you can focus your efforts on talking to the sweet spot, meaning you're the most authentic, the most fully expressed of yourself and your brand, but you're also hitting the them that is most aligned with your brand. So here's all the people in the world that could use it, but these are the people that will feel the impact of it the most. And when you can talk to that group of people, your sales are going to skyrocket, your messages are going to hit, and people are going to feel like they know you and your brand and believe in it.
Yeah, I think honestly, starting with the audience themselves, starting with we call them personas in marketing, start with that audience that you're really trying to reach, that target audience member, and just do a complete breakdown of what that person looks like. So what is their age range? Where do they work? What kind of stores do they shop at? What are some of the things that they might be going on in their personal life or professional life? And kind of put those together. There's lots of like worksheets and stuff out there that you can get, but start building out those different personas that can come to you. I mean, I know for me, I focus on 3 different types of personas for my brand. Maybe you just have 1, maybe you have 10. I'm not sure, but sounds a bit much. I would try to like niche down if you could. But there are going to be those common types of people that gravitate towards your business, or maybe they're not gravitating towards you. Maybe there is a type of audience out there right now that you want to gravitate towards your business, but you're not quite meeting their needs for some reason. Why? Let's dig into that. Like, what are some of the things that you think that they might be looking for? And then start being helpful. Don't be salesy. So if you are doing the medium of email marketing to try to reach out to, instead of, letting them know about what it is that you are doing, it's not about what you're doing, it's about why you're doing it. So, kind of organizing your thoughts around the why and making it meet to maybe what might match their why or their needs at the time. And then you have synergy. Like it's like a no-brainer at that point. So usually, like right now, I send out emails. I don't really do a lot of cold email marketing. When I do send out emails, they're very thought out. I'm sending them because I'm letting people know about something specific that I'm doing. Like for instance, this webcast. I'm doing this webcast. It's 100% free. I think it could help a lot of people if they watch the webcast today. And I'm just trying to set myself up as that thought leader in this space to be able to reach people on a more authentic outlet, a more organic way. So if you're framing stuff like that, that's what's going to keep you from going in that spam bin that we talked about. Going along the routes of the different mediums and stuff, something else that I can share is, we talked about fonts and colors and stuff like that. Let me quickly share with you. So Dove is a very interesting brand. When they kind of switched over, like I want to say maybe like 9 years ago at this point, they started kind of doing a more inclusive campaign. They're doing some incredible things right now, especially on TikTok. And I don't know if you've seen some of these videos, Nikki, or any of you guys watching, but I definitely shed a tear to some of these videos. So you'll definitely have to check them out. But this is just a landing page on their website. This is something they really care about, is just body positivity. Dove is a body wash. If you guys aren't familiar with their brands, they have other products too. I'm gonna go ahead and play this, and this is just a fun, simple way to get their point across of what they do.
It's time now to bring out the pretty people, and I double dare you to find them prettier than these ladies here.
All right, so it's very simple. It just shows they're all about, representation of different types of bodies, even with their bottles of body wash. And I just love that. And that's such a short little snippet of something. And they got their point across. And I didn't feel sold to. I felt what they were trying to tell me, and I loved it. And I'll just go ahead and show one more real quick.
And let's sit down, and I will read you a book.
You are so beautiful to me.
Good job, Mary.
You are so beautiful.
Hello, we're Mary and Addie's comedy show.
To me. Can't you see, dear Mary, everything I hoped for? You're everything I need. You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful.
You want a small waist this summer when your favorite product is here. All right, that's it.
To me. Can't you see everything I hoped for? You're everything I need.
Get yourself a tape measure. Thigh gaps are in.
You are so beautiful to
You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? You're everything I hope for, everything I need.
You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see?
All right, I know that was a lot to chew. Everyone get your towels, get your tissues. It's just something that Dove is very, very passionate about. That is what they are about. That's what they're standing behind, and that's what they want their product to stand behind. And I didn't feel sold at all in that. They were very specifically standing behind a message, and that is something I would stand behind 100%. Plus, I really actually do like the product. There's a playlist that I think I shared in the chat. If you guys want to go watch a couple other brands that do it well. I think the one video that I had shared right before we started the webcast today was an inclusive campaign from Apple that was really touching. Nikki, what are some of your favorites?
I mean, I'm a big fan of, I'm definitely a fan of the hard hitting. I think when I became a parent, I started to pay more attention to what was out there and what I was spending my energy on. And so some of the ones I always love are the ones that don't take themselves too seriously, right? They're there for humor. They know that they're there for comedic relief, and they're there to kind of break the tension. So I always love a good, really funny ad.
Yeah.
So some of the Geico commercials for me have always been winners. Not all of them, but most of them have been winners. But I think, as we move into this space of interactive content where people are using videos to engage with others, I really love the people that just kind of really stand, like you said, stand behind a message, but also stand behind their value system. I really love things like Patagonia that are like, this is what we're for, this is who we're for, and this is what we're trying to protect. And so for me, I really love kind of these things that very clearly demonstrate that, yes, they make a living off of the products that they sell, but there's a greater mission behind the things that they're doing. So I love Patagonia. REI is a great one. So I'm a big outdoors, kind of hiking, camping lover. So I just want to make sure that, that sustainability aspect is covered. So I love people that can really get into the values conversation.
Yeah, let's talk more about the mediums and everything more specific to that. So, what are you laughing at the comment?
Yeah,
I don't know if I've seen Save a Tree Pee in a Bush, but I'll have to watch that one.
That's certainly sustainable.
So let's talk about some of the mediums and things that you can do. Certainly we are in a day and age where you, as a small business owner, can easily create content for social media using a phone, using something small. You don't have to have a huge production to do so. It's just complete, authentic kind of content on the last minute, on the fly at the moment. It's acceptable to do that. One tip though, please make sure your audio is good. The video could be like subpar, but at least make sure the audio is good. But you can do something as small as that, and then you can do something as highly produced as some of the videos that we're sharing right now. Obviously, Dove and Nike, they have millions of dollars to spend on such campaigns, and you might be thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have money to make something like this. You could definitely still get a lot out of doing stuff on your own. I would definitely recommend, of course, working with strategists such as Nikki and myself, because we're in this industry. We know exactly what kind of content that people might be trying to shape or storytell with. But certainly there are things that you can create for social media posts. I mean, I hate posting on social media. I don't know about all you guys, but it can get tiresome, right? I mean, and it can feel kind of icky just posting post after post after post. But, when it comes down to it, creating content that meets that audience member that might kind of have been why you started your business in the first place is exciting. You might want to have spend a day and knock out 3 or 4 videos on a cell phone filming some content, and then just share that over a period of a few months. Not just video itself, but photography. And I know, Nikki, you're big on photography. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things that you help people with as far as content planning for photo shoots? Because I can tell you right now, that's super important.
Yeah, I think, one of the biggest things that people come to me for is they aren't marketers, right? They believe in their brand, they believe in their message, but they're not sure of the best way to get it out. And they don't want to spend their energy on something that's not going to be useful now and in the long term. So we have something called the photo or video shoot planning. And that's where we talk about what is the story that we're going to be telling today, right? What are the stories that we want to talk about? And I like to start from the foundation. What are the stories that we need up front? And so from a photo or a video standpoint, I'm thinking about, okay, if I am a business owner and I need to talk about how my business got started, some of the photos I'd want to bring in are not just what I look like today, but what were some of those early versions of working out of the business. We've all seen the meme where it shows the 4 garages and it shows Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg and all of them working out of their garages, which is where all of these major mega million businesses got started from. And so it's something like that, thinking about the nostalgia of the business and how can you do that in video and how can you do that in photography. So that's what I like to start with first, is kind of that foundation. How did this become this? The next thing that you want to make sure that you're including is the people that you serve. That's something that a lot of people forget when they go and do a brand photo shoot. It's all about them, which is great for a portion of your photography. It doesn't need to be your entire photography. Now you can get creative in photography and incorporate the people that you're talking to without actually having them in the photo, right? But one of the big things is, okay, if you're a service person, what does it look like to work with you? Who are the kinds of people working with you? And where does that work take place? So I like to think about the who, what, when, where, why in photography. And if I can tell that in every single shot, or I can create an emotion in photography or videography in particular, emotion is where it's at for me. So I'm not big on the smileys on every shot. I'm not big on the you have to look to the nines and everything has to be perfect. I am much more interested in the message and how your message makes me feel or act. That's what I care about the most, both in photography and videography.
Yeah, and to add to that, so sometime in video production, we will use stock imagery to do something that we need to add or supplement what we're trying to work with.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys have worked with stock photography or stock video. You have to be very careful with what you use. And what I'm talking about, which is what kind of Nikki related to as well, is when you look up like businessman presenting something in a boardroom, you get some of the cheesiest photos like, hey, look at this. It's so just framed and fake and just not authentic at all. And so I think what you're kind of suggesting too is just have it be that kind of natural setup. Have those natural. I am a big fan of natural lighting, so whenever I can use natural lighting, I use it. I don't like to do like the photo headshots on a backdrop, with framed really tightly and smiling. It just, you kind of look like a robot when it comes to that. But if you're outside and you're walking down the street with buildings in the background, and maybe you're just outside your office building, that's natural. Having that natural lighting, authentic, similar.
I always tell people there's a lot of great shots of women, really smart, intelligent women standing against walls with coffee cups. Yeah. Like for me, that's about as basic as you can get. And sure, if you want to grab that photo, all for it. But that should not be what your photo library consists of. So I build something called a content library, which is what are the stories I need to tell and how do I need to tell them? And so when I think about helping somebody build their content library, I take a look at what are the most important things that need to be communicated. So I have a client currently who's a strategic advisor, and her ideal client is older men who own practices, right? That's her people. Well, in photography, she had none of that. Like her photographs were a bunch of photos of her headshots. And then in the visuals of like a meeting room, it was a bunch of younger women who happened to be there at the same time getting their photography taken, right? So as a group. And so while that's great, yes, that's free photography. Feel free to grab it. You're already invested in that. Feel free to get it. You know that you're still going to need the photography of you working with your ideal client type. And where would that work be taking place? Would that be taking place in your home? Would that be taking place in a rented office? Probably not. It's going to be taking place in a very specific set, a very specific kind of looking office with this kind of decor. So it's more than just saying, I'm going to show up to this place and look pretty. It's thinking about all of those little elements that need to be included. And that's where things like when you're talking about video, you have the A-roll, which is you talking to the camera and the specific things that you're looking for, but you also have the B-roll. And the B-roll are those things that put that story together and connect the dots. And so for me in photography, your B-roll is actually what's going on around you. Exactly. That makes the scene make sense.
It's supplemental. It's helpful in every way to kind of tie that story piece together. So Matt Shanks has a question here I'm going to pull up. He's wondering if he can apply to equally lesser known brands. Everybody knows what Dove and Nike sell, but can smaller brands do this as well? Absolutely. So for instance, Coral House Productions, I started the business myself. It was just me for the longest time. Now I have a few people that help me that are on my team. But, for the longest time, I was kind of in the field doing this all myself. I'm the one that takes the camera out in the field. I'm the one who edits. I'm the one who sets the lights up, breaks them down. I do everything from start to finish myself. And what people want to see sometimes, am I that person? Am I the one that's doing that? So instead of just showing myself with my smiley picture, which I think the person who took my headshot on my LinkedIn page is watching today. Hi, Trish. Call out to Trish. But it's showing images of me with the camera on my shoulder. It's showing images with me setting up the equipment. So it's kind of like proof of concept. It's showing me doing. I know this field. I know this industry. This is my expertise. See. Here's the pictures of me doing all the things that I say that I can do. It's kind of that proof of concept and that confidence that you're trying to instill in the people that are coming to your page. So absolutely, it just ties into everything that you're trying to technically sell, but let's not say sell. And it looks like we have another great comment here. Let's see. Touch on the differences between the individual and the professional business types. So I totally get that. I just kind of like how I mentioned, I was pretty much my business for the most part. But I think maybe you're speaking more of like maybe your name is part of your business. You can still do stuff like that and make the brand about you. Nikki, I think I'll let you touch on that because your brand is heavily you.
Yeah, this is the world I live in, right? So the majority of my clients are these people that kind of cross all three territories, right? Maybe they have a brand that is a what. And I call it like, that's the corporate brand, right? That is your what brand. That might be a nonprofit. That might be a brand that sells widgets. But that concept there is not about you. It's about a what. It's about a who you serve and what the product and the result is. A professional brand to me is I work for someone else or I work in a service capacity. These are the things that I do and how I help, right? Mm-hmm. And then an individual brand is these are the things I personally care about. This is who I am. This is how I want to network and how I want to touch base with people and move throughout the world. So I think all three can exist simultaneously, which is a little fun and content strategy land, but I am one of those people. I have a personal brand. I started my brand as a what? I started my brand as where content connects. And within 3 years, I had pulled back on that and started marketing it as myself because people began to know me and my brand as the same thing, which is ultimately what I wanted, right? So don't be afraid to pivot should that happen. But for a lot of us that work for other people, but it requires our own brand to kind of be the salesperson, right? So a good example of that would be agents and advisors and consultants who maybe work for a larger organization, but are pushing themselves and what they can do. So maybe they're in business development or they're a salesperson, whatever those cases. What you want to be talking about in that professional setting is how you help and who you serve and what your solutions are. And then in the corporate world, it is a much bigger, it's really so much about the overall message and that how everything works together to serve a larger, much larger audience. So I think when I can look at it from those three respects, I have 2 businesses and I'm also a personal brand. I look at it as how can I spend the majority of my time being Nikki, right? And these are the things that Nikki does. These are the people that Nikki helps. And these are the other initiatives and who they serve. And when you can find a way to talk about all of those things from a values perspective or this is how they're all tied together. There's a really great book called Finding Your Red Thread, right? What is the red thread that ties all of those things together? For me, it's my values. But for others, it may be their experiences or something else that they're motivated or driven by. But those are the 3 distinct differences for me. Personal and individual kind of go together. These are the things that are about you and who you are and how you move through the world. The professional is your spin on who you work for, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is how I personally can help you with these solutions and these services on behalf of my company. And then corporate would be the what. I sell the what. I serve the who, without any kind of I'm the person really behind that.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. I love that book reference. I have not heard. You'll have to pop that in the chat
Sure.
for people. And then I also have another book recommendation for people too. It's kind of talks a lot about some of the things that we had talked about today. It is, let me pop it here. It's called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. We'll go ahead and put that in the link in the chat as well for that. But I would like to give away one of those copies of Building a Brand. So if anyone wants to comment in the comment section right now, maybe one of their favorites, let's see, what should we say? One of their favorite brands that does the storytelling well that you've witnessed that you like. So go ahead and comment in the chat right now if you guys want to pick up a copy of that book, Building a Brand Story by Donald Miller. Just leave a comment and we'll do a drawing here closer to the end and pick a random winner. You know, if you guys are struggling too with coming up with concepts and stuff for like video content, there's something that Coral House Productions also does, which is our video blueprint method. So what we'll do is we'll actually come to you. We will buy your team lunch. We will sit down. We will listen to everything that you have been trying to do for your business or your brand to get the word and the message out there. Kind of listen to some of the ideas that you might have to reach your brand audience. And then we will sit there and kind of hammer out like, hey, what if we tried this instead? Or what about this angle or this angle? We'll come up with a whole video blueprint content strategy for you. And then at the end of the day, you'll have a PDF breakdown of all the details that would go into producing some kind of video production like that we discussed at that lunch meeting. We buy your team lunch. It's kind of like a win-win situation. I'll drop the details in the chat for that if you guys are interested in that. And, you know, we can help you kind of strategize what that might look like. In a nutshell, you know, tips for sharing your brand story. Be authentic, focus on your values, keep it simple, use visuals, share your challenges. Don't be afraid to share your challenges. Be that little bit of a vulnerable person out there to people so they can see that you're human, right? And then finally, focus on your audience because that's who you're there for in the long run. I mean, that's why you're there. That's why you're running your business. It is about them, not necessarily about you. So don't be afraid to tell your story. I know that's what we do here. And I absolutely love helping businesses tell a story. That's one of my passions. That's what wakes me up in the morning. I love problem solving and helping people try to figure out how to best tell their story. Even if you're selling, you know, that you're that business that owns the lawn mowing service. There's a story there. I guarantee you, I'm already getting ideas. And I don't even know anybody who owns a lawn mowing service. But definitely love doing that. So we'll go ahead and open the floor up for any more questions that people might have. Let's see. I see a couple. All right. The winner is Kelly Lawrence. So Kelly, you are the winner of the book, Building a Brand Story by Donald Miller. So if you want to message me, I'll get your contact details and we'll get that copy of that book sent out to you. So thank you so much for participating on that. I want to know, why don't you guys tell me in the chat here while we have a few more minutes? I would love to know what some of you guys do. I know some of you, I'm recognizing some of you in the chat here, but some of you I don't know. Just pop in there and just tell me what your business is real quick, because I would love to just say, oh, hey, you're in that line of business. Hey, I think this might be fun to do. So that would be kind of fun. If we can pop in, then we'll give you a little shout out too on the LinkedIn Live here. So, oh, hey, Jason. Awesome. Let's see, Christopher, I know you through Bunker Labs. Love it. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to have to watch some of these videos too. Great information. This is going to be recorded and available for replay shortly after this webcast is over. Creating a brand story is all about creating an emotional connection with your audience, as we mentioned, and showcasing your brand's journey, purpose, and impact in an interesting and relatable way. So by sharing the why behind your brand, you can build brand loyalty and differentiate yourself from others, certainly breaking out from all that noise that's out there. But thank you guys all so much for joining us today. I'm so thrilled. If you guys need anybody to help strategize for your business, you know where Nikki and I are. I'll drop some of that more contact info in the chat here for us. We are so thrilled to be able to do this live webcast with you today. And otherwise, we'll see you around the next time. Nikki, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think, the big thing I would leave with people is, if you're going to be creating a brand, right? If you're going to be creating a business, if you're going to move through the world, you're going to need to put yourself out there, right? Mm-hmm. And even if that means you can commit to, I'm going to get on video one time a quarter and just share what's going on in my life and share what I'm looking for, share who I'm looking to work with. Even if it's showing some of the people that you've worked with, right? In terms of, these are the people we've served this year, and tell their stories instead of yours, that's still doing a lot for your brand. So there's a lot of different ways that you can tell the why behind your brand without you having to get on camera. So just think about, how can I tell our stories differently? How can I talk about the people that we work with, the people that work for us, how I move through the world, what I'm up to, those kinds of things. And whether that's a minute at a time or whether that's a bigger production, work with somebody that can help you kind of navigate through that. And you're going to see some amazing things happen in terms of the ability for your content to get out into the world on a greater scale.
Absolutely. Such wonderful words to end on. Thank you so much, Nikki. Yeah. And thanks to all of you guys. And hopefully we'll catch you next month in the next broadcast. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone. Bye.